Happy Thanksgiving week, everyone. My name is Dominic, and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And in observation of the holiday this week, I wanted to share 10 comic books I've been thankful for this year, 2023. Before we jump into the books, though, I do want to shout out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can see their link in the description for this video. And hey, if you find something you like, you can even use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to receive $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's list video. First on our list, in no particular order, comics I'm thankful for this year, Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. As you can see, I got an older trade paperback copy of this incredible title. I know they've released better editions even this year for this book, but for me this was special. I found it at a used bookstore for a really great price, and for me it was more than just the edition, it was getting this story in my collection. I had the opportunity to read this incredible tale years and years ago when I was just starting to get into comic books. I don't think I ever had my own copy though, and I had thought about this story in recent years. And frankly, I wanted a copy in my collection. I wanted to reread it. I wanted to remember why this stood out to me as something I really loved. Of course, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale are an incredible team that I've enjoyed on their Batman works with things like Long Halloween, of course, and all the Marvel color books like Spider-Man Blue and Daredevil Yellow, to name a few. I had the opportunity to review this book and some of the other books I mentioned on the channel, but anyway, this one was such a standout this year. It was so fun to revisit the world of Superman for All Seasons. I honestly teared up a little bit at a couple points in this book. I just love the good-natured aspect of Clark Kent, Superman, and I think that there is something rich in this story that just hits at the very soul of that character. This character's been around for almost a century now, and yet I still find ways to be moved by him. I also just generally love the way that this arc kind of really focuses on Americana and how much Superman is an American product. I think that it's just such a fascinating way to approach the visual storytelling, and there's something that I think Tim Sale particularly understands about this character and how he portrays even the American Midwest and Smallville, Kansas, things like that. It just is so rich in detail, and rereading it again with fresh eyes, I just see more than ever why this is an undisputed classic, at least in my mind. Super thankful to have picked this up this year, Superman for All Seasons. Next up on our list, probably my contender for my favorite comic of the year, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King and Bilquis Evely. For those that maybe haven't heard about this series or haven't seen my review, this is effectively a standalone mini-series that I think anyone can enjoy. If you've never read a Supergirl title, or if she's your favorite character that you've read for decades, I think anyone can approach this standalone work and absolutely enjoy the experience. I know I did. I think for me, it is such a great way to experience some of the best the Big Two has to offer, and I really just can't speak highly enough about it. Essentially, it is a kind of coming-of-age narrative slash science fiction fantasy adventure. There is kind of this buddy travel narrative to the whole thing as well. Essentially, Supergirl finds herself on a distant planet, and on that planet there is a young woman who has basically just lost her father and has sworn revenge on his murderer. And Supergirl basically teams up with her and goes across the stars trying to right the wrong of her father's death and trying to get vengeance. All the while, Supergirl is really influencing this young woman as she kind of comes of age, and I think that this is just a really fantastic story. The art is absolutely dreamy, surreal, and beautiful. I think to see all these different alien races and cultures and worlds realized by Evely is just something to behold. I cannot underscore enough how beautiful this book is. As far as the writing goes, I am a Tom King fan, and this is some of his lyrical best. Some of the prose in this work, some of that interior monologue we get almost reads like poetry in a way. This book just flew by for me, and I will never forget my experience reading it for the first time. When I think about books I'm thankful for this year, this definitely goes to almost the top of my list. I really, really adore this story. I can't wait to hopefully someday get it in a hardcover edition, but for now, I am so thankful for this little trade paperback. If you haven't discovered it yet, I highly recommend you checking out Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Next on our list, Batman Beyond Neo Year by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. Now for me, this was not only a fantastic story I picked up this year, I am particularly thankful for it because I was actually able to meet the co-writers of this story at my local comic shop, my LCS, and it was a really lovely experience. These two gentlemen were really, really polite. Jackson Lansing in particular was really generous with his time, talked to me all about the book, some of the things they were working on currently and toward the future, and I really just so enjoyed my experience meeting them that it enriched my experience with this book overall. I had already read it at that point and I was already a fan of it, but hearing a little bit behind the scenes and getting to meet these incredible men, it just made this all the more rewarding. They even signed my copy of the book, which you probably saw at the beginning of this little segment, and really it's become kind of a cherished little item here. I haven't met a huge handful of comic book creators overall, and so I really cherished the experience. And I do think the book itself is really fantastic. I reviewed this one as well on my channel if you want more details on it, but it's a really fun kind of dystopian future Batman Beyond story. I think it really nails the sort of noir feeling of Batman Beyond in this kind of cyberpunk future, and overall it's just a great title. The art throughout it was also really stellar. It felt very loyal to the original animated series while still feeling dynamic and fun for the comic book medium. I really anticipate their next follow-up to Batman Beyond Neo Year to be something worth reading. I can't wait to check it out whenever that gets released in collected edition. But for now, I'll hold on to Neo Year. Very excited for the journey. If you have an opportunity to meet these creators, I would recommend it. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience. I also really enjoyed reading their Batman One Bad Day Clayface one-shot, so if you haven't checked that out, that was also a great title by these same co-writers. Anyway, that is Batman Beyond Neo Year. Next on our list is actually an item I included on my thankfulness video a few years back on the channel. That is Spider-Man Death of the Stacys. This is a standard size hardcover edition with nice, rich, glossy, archival-like paper. It collects some issues that revolve around the death of George Stacy, as well as the arc that depicts, yes, the death of Gwen Stacy. It's all in this nice hardcover edition, and I think that for me, it captures some of the really tragic events in the Spider-Man mythos. I'm really thankful for this story, not only for a nice addition here with this hardcover that has really upheld against the test of time thus far, but I'm really thankful for it because my dad gave me this book. I mentioned it in probably my other thankfulness video, but my dad is a comic collector, or at least he was, of single issues. I actually interviewed him at one point in the beginning of my channel. Anyway, a great man that I just love so much. He gave me this book, and I really just treasure it. And even now that I have a lot of these issues, I think actually all of these issues reproduced in omnibus format, I still can't seem to get rid of this copy because it has sentimental value to me. And when I was doing this video, I almost didn't include it since I had on a previous video, but seeing it on the shelves there, I just wanted to include it one more time. Thanks again, Dad. And for those that maybe have never read these story arcs, the death of George Stacy and the death of Gwen Stacy, I think they're really pivotal Silver Age stories that, especially if you're a big Spider-Man fan like me, I would consider essential reading. The art is still absolutely gorgeous today. You can usually find these stories in different kinds of reprints over the years. Like I said, they reproduce some of them in the omnibus editions. I'm sure they've been released in epic format. If you want to track down the single issues, it might be a pretty penny, but you certainly could. Just some really great issues here, some great villain hero interactions we have between Doc Ock and Green Goblin, for example. Really some fantastic stories, and to have them all in this hardcover edition, it's just pretty nifty. Next on our list is actually an omnibus edition I have long wanted in the collection. This is a theme you'll see recurrent throughout some of the remaining of this video, but this is the new X-Men Omnibus by Grant Morrison. This is a work I have always wanted to read in its entirety. I had the first Ultimate collection of Morrison's run on this book that I had read through some time ago before selling it off. I always wanted to read the entire run proper, and I was hoping we'd get an omnibus reprint one day. And that happened this year, and I was so happy happy to pick up a copy and read this incredibly transformative arc in the history of the X-Men. I recently read and reviewed it on the channel. For subscribers, if you haven't seen that, go check it out. But I really enjoyed my time here. I've always been a fan of the Astonishing X-Men run as well by Joss Whedon and John Cassaday, and I know this immediately preceded it, and I always wanted to check out this run, and honestly, it was at least as good as I hoped it would be, if not a little bit better. It still feels progressive, interesting, a bit subversive, and I've never seen these X-Men characters handled in such a way. I think that Morrison really helped make X-Men cool again, for whatever that means. I really enjoyed my time here. Seeing the art from Frank Quitely, among others, was really just a breathtaking experience. I think having all of these issues in a beautiful oversized hardcover edition, again, it's just a dream. This has been a book I've always wanted to have in my collection, and I wasn't sure what the reprint schedule would be like, so I was elated this year when I was able to finally get the copy. You can see here the art. I just love the style. I think that even though it changes hands throughout a bit, I just think it's really just stunning. Really can't recommend this run highly enough. I don't know if it's my favorite X-Men run, but I will say I think for a devoted X-Men fan, this is probably going to be near essential reading. I know for me, I'm a Morrison fan as well, and so this was easily one of the best runs in that bibliography. Next on my list of comics I'm thankful for, of course, we're going to be talking about Canada's own superhero team, Alpha Flight, with the Alpha Flight Omnibus by John Byrne. This was another omnibus that got a reprint this year, and I was pretty excited to jump in. I will say Alpha Flight was a team I was only vaguely aware of before diving into the Chris Claremont X-Men run. I think last year was when I really started to get into it. I had read some of these early Alpha Flight appearances, and I thought some of the heroes involved were just really cool character concepts. I love the Sasquatch, I love the team leader, I love just some of these other characters and their interplay, and I knew that there was kind of a spin-off series and a proper Alpha Flight like book written by John Byrne out there, and I was interested at that point after reading some of the Claremont issues of X-Men. But anyway, I knew that this was kind of a whale of a book that hadn't been in print for some time. Meanwhile, I'm reading more and more from John Byrne that I'm really liking, like the Fantastic Four run, The Thing, Superman, and I just stop and think, wow, I'm really starting to like John Byrne. And when I put all these pieces together, that there was this Alpha Flight Omnibus out there, and I heard that they were reprinting it this year, this was definitely a pre-order for me. Yes, it's a little bit older of a book, all things considered, but I think it really still holds up. I have dabbled with it a little bit. I haven't completed it yet. If you are interested in a full review sometime in the future, definitely let me know in the comments. But for right now, I love just flipping through it. I love reading what I have read. I look forward to getting back to it and finally completing and going through this run proper. But this was kind of a whale of a book. This was a collecting goal I didn't even realize I had until the last year or so. So the fact that they already reprinted this guy and it's also on my bookcases, well, it's just something in the collecting world I've been very thankful for this year. As you can see, the art is just of a time and of a style, and I just love it. I can't get enough of this kind of artwork. This period of Marvel Comics is one of my favorites. Absolutely cool. Okay, next up we have Avengers by Jonathan Hickman Omnibus Volume 1. Yes, this is the beginning of the Hickvengers era over at Marvel Comics, and this is a book I am exceedingly thankful for this year. So last year, I believe I named the Fantastic Four Omnibus by Jonathan Hickman, or the pair of omnibuses, as my favorite book or books of 2022. Last year, they were my number one picks, just that whole run from Hickman. I knew, obviously, that he wrote an Avengers arc that led up to his ultimate opus over at Marvel, that being the Secret Wars event of 2015. And I had read Secret Wars, I'd read Fantastic Four, and I knew I really wanted to read that Avengers run that all led up to Secret Wars. And when they reprinted these, it was an absolute pre-order situation for me. I think after loving Fantastic Four so much, I couldn't wait to see what Hickman just unleashed on Avengers, and honestly, I'm not disappointed. I'm still making my way through this run, but what I've read so far, I have just devoured. It's been really incredible. I think so far, and again, I haven't completed it, so far I still do prefer his Fantastic Four run, but this Avengers run is still easily some of the best comics I've read this year. I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to collect collect this run. Now I'm collecting a couple of these Marvel Hickman omnibuses, and that's just really exciting for me. I think Hickman has really emerged as one of my absolute favorite comic book writers in recent years, and I'm just adoring my time here. I think the whole concept he approaches the Avengers with, the grand epic scale storytelling that we have behind the scenes on everything in this run, it's just really a masterstroke. I think it's really impressive how high concept and gigantic the scope of the storytelling Hickman tries to unleash on comic books as a medium. I think he's so good in the execution, and I think that this is a really good run. I cannot wait to see how it all finishes up. I have read Secret Wars, so I guess I know how it finishes up. But I mean the actual Avengers proper run. I can't wait to get that full arc and read both of these omnibuses in full. Really excited and thankful for this one. Okay, next up we have the Superior Spider-Man Omnibus by Dan Slott from Marvel Comics. So this might sound a bit repetitive now, but this is another omnibus I have always hoped to read. Not even omnibus, because this is a newer format for this run, but I just hope to read this run in general. I always wanted to read that Superior Spider-Man arc where we have Doc Ock's consciousness taking over Peter Parker's body, and he becomes what he says is the Superior Spider-Man. I heard so many good things about this run. I've actually heard it's the best modern Spider-Man run. And while that's a tall order for me, I guess I'll see what I feel like when I finish this whole run. I am just elated. I am a fan of Dan Slott's writing. I really enjoyed what I read of his Silver Surfer run earlier this year as well, for example. But anyway, I was really excited to dive into this book, which I have, and I really love the setup. I think the whole concept is really narratively rich and interesting. I think to upend the whole Peter Parker Spider-Man world with this whole change-up was such a bold move from Slott, and I think it really pays off with just the impact of the storytelling here. I cannot say how much I've enjoyed it. I really just recommend it to a lot of readers out there, especially if you're a fan of Spider-Man. This is definitely a great swing for the character, and I just see him in a new light like I've never seen before. Of course, he has the consciousness of Doc Ock, so it isn't really the same character, but it kind of is, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you kind of have to read it to believe it, but I think having this in an omnibus format is a real treat. When I heard they were making this, another one that went on the pre-orders list that I saved up for, and man, I'm so thankful to finally have it. It turned out beautifully. I really have no complaints about this book, and like I said, what I've read so far of this omnibus, I have really enjoyed. This is another one, if you want to see me do a full review of, definitely let me know in the comments. It might be a little bit before I finish this one out, but I am enjoying what I've read. Also, let me know, have you read Superior Spider-Man? What do you think of this title? I would love to hear from you in the comments on that as well. I could not do this comic thankfulness list this year without mentioning Spider-Man 2099 Omnibus. This whole run was written by Peter David, who's rapidly becoming one of my other favorite comic book writers out there, and this is a run I have started in the past. I actually mentioned the trade paperback Volume 1, which included the first handful of issues of this run in my previous thankfulness video, I believe. So having this entire run in an omnibus format, that oversized hardcover kind of archival edition, it really is a dream. And this is a book that got delayed forever. I was starting to get concerned at one point that they would never come out or they wouldn't go through with printing it. I pre-ordered it so long ago, I almost forgot that I pre-ordered it, and when it came around and they delivered this to my door, I just couldn't believe it. I just think it looks so sharp. I think everything was reproduced so well. It is a gigantic omnibus. I mean, it has all of those issues packed into it, but it really is something else. Rereading some of these early issues that I had read in the past, I'm remembering greater details that I had since forgotten about. I loved seeing that costume on Spider-Man 2099. I think with the success of the Spider-Verse movies, I know Across the Spider-Verse introduced a whole new wave of fans and audiences to Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man of 2099. I think there's no better time to dive into this characters. For those that are prospectively interested in it, you might still be able to find copies of this omnibus about, but I think it's a really beautiful book that I, for one, am certainly thankful to have in the collection. It looks great on the bookcase, and I think that, again, it's just a really great Spider-Man story from what I've read. I love having other Spider people in the Marvel Universe, and I think Miguel O'Hara is easily in my top tier for Spider-Man characters. A really compelling, interesting character in a dystopian future. I like the different variations he has on the Spider-Man mythos. He's been kind of gene therapy altered to be more spider-like, but he has kind of vampiric qualities, and that gene therapy didn't go quite right, so there's kind of this weird body horror aspect to the whole thing. Anyway, this series just really works, and I'm so thankful to have it in the collection this year. And last, but certainly not least, on my 10 comic books I've been thankful for this year in 2023, I'm going to give it to Batman by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo Omnibus from DC Comics. This really means a lot to me for a few reasons. The first being that I got a lot of different Amazon gift cards and things for Christmas, and I was trying to figure out what to use the money on from all of my loved ones, and I decided I was going to upgrade my favorite Batman run, that being, of course, the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo era, into omnibus format. And so I went ahead and picked up this volume to start that off, and I couldn't believe when it came in. To have this run in an oversized format was really just such a goal for me. I knew when I had read Court of Owls, and especially when these omnibuses came out, that I always hoped to one day have the resources to upgrade. And I had kind of dragged my feet for a long time. It's sometimes harder for me to justify an upgrade versus saving up to buy something new I hadn't read before. But I knew that this is just a top shelf comic book run for me, one of my favorites of all time. So I had hoped that this 2-volume set that contains their entire run, I hoped it was just a matter of time before I just went ahead and did the upgrade. And that's what happened this year. I did get both volumes. For this video, I'm showcasing this volume 1. It collects the beginning of their run, so things like the Court of Owls, Zero Year, we have Death of the Family, and more. Just a really great set here. I absolutely adore this comic book run. I think that their approach to Batman is just second to none. I really adore it. I'm so thankful to actually have this edition in my hands. It really feels surreal to see some of my favorite Batman issues of all time reproduced in this gorgeous size. Revisiting some of these issues as well since getting this omnibus, it's just been a dream, and this is something I'm so thankful for. And I really have family and friends to thank for giving me the resources to finally get a collection goal. Really so thankful for this set, and cannot recommend this run highly enough. And that's really going to do it for me for 10 comic books I'm thankful for this year, 2023. Thankfulness is a virtue I always aspire to. I think gratitude is immensely important. I know as a Christian man myself, I just know that every good thing comes from the Lord, and I'm just so thankful for something even as trivial as it seems, these comic books. So thankful to have these in my collection, whether it's sentimental or just personal collector goals. I'm really thankful for these this year. They're incredible reads, and ones I would definitely recommend to those in the audiences. If the general concepts seem appealing to you, check them out. You know, a lot of these might also be on those comic kind of streaming services, or there are ways to find these books in different formats like paperbacks, things like that. You can always check out our sponsor, Organic Price Books. But anyway, thanks again for all of you watching. I would love to hear in the comments, what are comic books you're thankful for this year? Maybe in general, what are some things you're thankful for? I would love to get the comment section to just be filled with gratitude and just great things people are thankful for. I hope that all of you out there have a great, rich Thanksgiving season if you celebrate it. And if not, I hope you have a season of life just filled with so many blessings and gratitude. Again, thank you all for watching, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. If you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to leave that like, a comment, and maybe share the video with your friends. Have a good one.